Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering draft video. It's Al here with you, and this is how to draft Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is my format guide for the upcoming set. It's dropping on Arena this Tuesday, and it's dropping for pre-release this weekend. Hope you're excited for it. It looks like a really sweet set. I'm excited to get into the guide. As always, please click like, leave a comment, and click subscribe to support the channel. It's a very free and very effective way to help me along on my YouTube journey here, so I really appreciate everyone who does so. Getting straight into it, when you open your pack of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you're going to, of course, be looking at your rare, but past that, we're looking for commons and uncommons with the following characteristics. Flexibility, they can fit into multiple decks. Rate, you're getting good value for the mana that you're spending on the card. Power level, the card is powerful. Curve, mostly means cheap, low mana value cards that can fit into your mana curve. And synergy, do they have good synergy with their archetype or color in the set? So we're going to be starting with our premium removal. This is kind of the benchmark for all of the draft choices that I make in any given draft. If it's as good or better than these cards, then that sort of determines where I'm going to be taking that card in the draft. So starting with white, we've got Team Avatar, which doesn't look like a removal spell until you realize you can pay 2 and a white and discard it to deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. That's not great, but the fact that it's also a 2 and a white enchantment that buffs up your creatures makes it a really high pick in my opinion. In black, we've got Heartless Act, the 1 and a black instant. You can choose one, destroy a creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from a target creature. And Epic Downfall, 1 and a black for sorcery, exile target creature with mana value 3 or greater. In red, we've got Iroh's Demonstration, 1 and a red for a sorcery. It's a lesson. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Choose one. It deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control, or deals 4 damage to a single creature. And finally, in green, Allies at Last, 2 and a green for an instant. It's got affinity for allies, so it costs 1 less for each ally you control. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. It's an instant, and up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to their power to target creature and opponent control. So nice instant speed way to get rid of a big threat. Next, we'll look at the good removal. These are still high picks, but other top cards may be taken over these. In black, we've got Sold Out, 3 and a black for an instant to exile target creature. And if that creature was dealt damage this turn, you create a clue token. Not sure how relevant that will be, but 4 mana exile is always really good. Combustion Technique is 1 and a red for an instant lesson. Deals damage equal to 2 plus the number of lesson cards in your graveyard to target creature. And if that creature would die, it's exiled instead. The classic Lightning Strike, 1 and a red for an instant to deal 3. Firebending lesson, single red for an instant lesson with kicker 4, deals 2 damage to target creature, and if it was kicked, it deals 5 instead. Finally, we've got Rocky Rebuke in green, 1 and a green for an instant, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. All just nice, efficient removal spells. Now we'll get into the premium rate cards. So some of these, like I said, may be taken over the good removal, maybe even over the premium removal, but kind of up in those early first 1, 2, 3 picks of the draft. In white, we've got Earth Kingdom Jailer, 2 and white for a 3/3. When it enters, you exile up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater until this creature leaves the battlefield. Got Water Tribe Rallier, 1 and a white for a 2/2. It's got Waterbend 5, which means you can pay 5 mana and you can help pay that cost by tapping your creatures and artifacts, kind of like Convoke from previous sets. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, you can reveal a creature with power 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom. Aang, the Last Airbender, the guy from this set. It's 3 and a white for a 3/2 flying. When he enters, airbend up to one other target non-land permanent, which means you exile it. Could be yours, could be your opponent's. And while it's in exile, its owner may recast it for 2 mana rather than its regular mana cost. So nice disruption ability here, or a way to reset one of your own creatures. Maybe it's got a aura on it from your opponent that you don't like, or maybe it's got a nice enters ability you want to get again. This is a really nice utility card for that. And whenever you cast a lesson spell, Aang gains lifelink until end of turn. So just a lot for your 4 mana. We've also got Invasion Reinforcements. 1 and a white for a 1/1 creature ally. Allies will be important in this set. It's got Flash, and when it enters, you create a 1/1 ally creature token. Again, just really efficient and fits into a lot of what white is trying to do, as we're going to see. In blue, we've got Benevolent River Spirit. Blue for a 4/5 flying ward 2, but it has an additional cost of Waterbending 5. So again, you can pay 5, or you can help to pay that 5 by tapping creatures and artifacts to reduce it by 1. And when this creature enters, you scry 2. So just a huge amount of value, big threat in the air. Should be pretty reasonable to get this down on turn 4 or 5. We've got Invasion Submersible. This is 2 and a blue for a vehicle. When it enters, you return up to one other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And then you could Waterbend 3 to make this an artifact creature with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. A common in blue, nice one here, Forecasting Fortune Teller. 1 and a blue for a 1/3. When it enters, you get a clue token. And Katara Bending Prodigy is 2 and a blue for a 2/3. The beginning of your end step, if it's tapped, you get a +1/+1 counter, and you can Waterbend 6 to draw a card. In red, we've got The Cave of Two Lovers. This is a saga. 3 and a red for an enchantment saga. Chapter 1, you get 2 1/1s. Chapter 2, you search for a mountain or a cave and put it into your hand. And then Chapter 3, Earthbend 3, which means you turn one of your lands into a 3/3 creature. So again, just a ton of stats, and you get to draw a card off of this. This is a big card. In green, we've got Haru Hidden Talent. 1 and a green for a 1/1. It's an ally, and whenever another ally you control enters, you Earthbend 1. And Toph, the Blind Bandit, is 2 and a green for a star 3. It's an ally. When it enters, you Earthbend 2. And Toph's power is equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on lands you control. So again, just a ton of value here. 3 mana for essentially a 2/3 and a 2/2. And then it grows as the game goes on. Notably, no premium rate cards in black. I'm not super excited about the black cards I've seen for this set at this point. All right, let's get into the archetypes. Here are my brief impressions of each of the 2 color archetypes in the format. We will be trying to end up in one of these by the end of the draft. I'll also keep in mind that each archetype has its own dual land here at common, such as this one here, the red-blue one, Airship Engine Room, enters tapped, taps for a blue or a red, and you can pay 4 and tap it and sacrifice it to draw a card. Each color pair gets one just like this. And you've also got Rumble Arena as a colorless filtering land. It has Vigilance, which means if you Earthbend it, if you put counters on it, turn it into a creature. That's kind of nice. It scries 1 on enter, taps for a colorless right away, which is kind of nice on these, and then you could pay 1 and tap it to add a mana of any color. These are mostly useful when you are trying to splash in like a 3 or 4 color situation. All right, let's start with white-blue waterbending. So we talked about waterbending a little bit already. Basically, creatures and artifacts can tap to help pay waterbending costs. Our signpost uncommon, which apparently has nothing to do with waterbending, is Air Nomad Legacy. This is white-blue for an enchantment. When it enters, you get a clue token, which is an artifact that says you can pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. And it says creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. We've got a couple of hybrid cards in each color pair as well. We've got Soka Lateral Strategist. This is 1 white-blue hybrid for a 2/4 legendary ally with a Vigilance. Whenever Soka and at least 1 other creature attack, you draw a card. And finally, Cat Owl is 3 and a white-blue hybrid for a 4/4 flying. When it attacks, you untap target artifact or creature. White-blue can be built as a Skies deck around commons like First Time Flyer and Glider Kids, along with Aang and Momo at uncommon, pumped up by Air Nomad Legacy, the enchantment that we just looked at. However, I believe a more effective build looks to abuse waterbend payoffs such as Benevolent River Spirit, Katara Bending Prodigy, and Water Tribe Rallier. Waterbending Lesson, Watery Grasp, and Geyser Leaper round things out at common. Look for cards that make multiple creatures, such as Kyoshi Warriors and Invasion Reinforcements. Keep in mind, clue tokens and artifacts can tap for waterbending, so Forecasting Fortune Teller and Kyoshi Battle Fan provide 2 resources each. Creatures with Vigilance can attack first and pay waterbend costs afterwards. Next is White-Black Sacrifice. Our signpost uncommon is Tolls of War. This is white-black for an enchantment. When it enters, you create a clue token. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers once only each turn. Only once each turn, I should say. Keep in mind this doesn't say non-token, so you can just repeatedly sacrifice these 1/1 allies once per turn, of course, but it's kind of a nice little way to continue to get fodder. We also have got an hybrid. We've got Heibai, I think that's the right pronunciation. Spirit of Balance. This is 2 white-black hybrid for a 3/3. When it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, you put 2+1/+1 counters on Heibai, and whenever it leaves the battlefield, you put its counters on target creature you control. And we have Pretending Pox Bearers. This is 1 and a white-black hybrid for a 2/1 ally that dies into a 1/1 ally. Tolls of War is your main payoff for sacrificing in this deck. Judy, One of Many, and June Bounty Hunter act as repeatable sacrifice engines. Deadly Precision will be a solid removal spell most other decks will not want. Look for multiple bodies and creatures that make clue tokens. However, I'm not really sure what you're working towards here other than a few extra 1/1s. Without a Blood Artist effect, this archetype doesn't seem to have a real plan to it. So I'm guessing you'll just be kind of like a white aggressive deck with some black removal mixed in, and that'll sort of be how this plays out most of the time. Next is White-Red Go Wide. It's got a mechanic called Firebending. When a creature with Firebending attacks, you add an amount of red mana equal to that Firebending number that lasts until end of combat. So you'll need to find a way to use this mana, either by casting instants or activating abilities before it goes away. So you won't be able to cast creatures or play sorcery spells with this mana. Keep in mind there's a small window after damage called the end of combat step where you could still use Firebending mana. So set your stops on Arena if need be. Hopefully they will just automate that for us. Otherwise that'll be kind of a pain. Signpost uncommons. Sun Warriors is 2 red-white for a 3/5 ally. It's got Firebending X, where X is the number of creatures you control. And it's got an activated ability. Pay 5 to create a 1/1 ally. So if you've got a few creatures in play, this could generate 3, 4, maybe even 5 mana for you. Make a token during combat. If it survives, you get to continue to do that and grow your army. So it could be pretty powerful. And hybrid cards, we've got Jet Freedom Fighter. This one's a banger. This is 2 and then 3 red-white hybrid mana. So 5 total for a 3/1 ally. When it enters, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature an opponent controls. And when he dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And finally, Wandering Musicians is 3 and a red-white hybrid for a 2/5 ally. When it attacks, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So in this deck, we want to make a lot of creatures and attack the opponent. Pretty straightforward. Invasion Reinforcements, Kyoshi Warriors. 2 that make multiple bodies are nice. The Cave of Two Lovers makes 2 1/1s for you. And Treetop Freedom Fighters is 3 mana for a 2/1 and a 1/1, part of which has haste. All of these are going to work well in this deck. Firebending is mostly at uncommon, but if you do have some, you're going to be more inclined to play cards like Cunning Maneuver, Fire Nation Attacks, and other cards that make clue tokens. You just want places to put that mana at instant speed. Next is White-Green Allies. Our signpost uncommon, White Lotus Reinforcements. This is 1 green white for a 2/3 ally with Vigilance. Other allies you control get +1/+1. Our hybrid cards are Suki Kyoshi Warrior, 2 and 2 green-white hybrid, so 4 mana. For a star 4, it's an ally, power equal to the number of creatures you control, and when it attacks, you create a 1/1 ally that's tapped and attacking. So this should be a 4/4 on attacks pretty reasonably. Could be a bit bigger than that, and I don't know, if your 1/1 token survives, that's pretty nice, but that probably won't happen all that often. We also have Earth Kingdom Soldier, 4 and a green-white hybrid for a 3/4 Vigilance. It's not an ally, notably. When it enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. Pretty straightforward here. White-green wants to play a lot of ally creatures. Some other nice payoffs. Haru Hidden Talent is a huge payoff for this, as it adds 1/1 of stats to the board every time an ally comes down. Master Piandeo is a good curve topper, and Avatar Enthusiasts should be a 4/4 or greater most of the time, I think, in this deck. Invasion Reinforcements and Kyoshi Warriors, once again, are a key part of the strategy as they make multiple allies. Most other creatures will have the ally type, so they should be pretty easy to find in the draft. Finally, Invasion Tactics looks to me like a bit of a trap, as it's best when you're already winning anyways, so I might look to avoid this one. All right, next is Blue-Black Draw 2. Signpost uncommon is Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper. It's 1 blue-black for a 2/4 with lifelink. Nice stat line there. And when you draw your second card each turn, you make a 1/1 spirit that can't block or be blocked by non-spirits. It's a bit of a legalese type of line there. So the spirits can only touch each other. There's only a couple of creatures in the set that are spirits anyway, so these tokens are kind of just unblockable, but they also can't block. So shorthand. Our hybrid cards, Hama the Bloodbender, is 2 and 3 blue-black hybrid mana for a 3/3. It's legendary. When it enters, target opponent mills 3, and then you exile up to 1 non-creature, non-land from their graveyard. And for as long as you control Hama, you may cast the exile card during your turn by Waterbending X, where X is its mana value. So if you get a 2-mana lightning strike out of their graveyard, you can either just pay 2 generic mana, or you can tap 2 of your creatures, or an artifact and a creature, or any combination of that. And finally, Messenger Hawk is 2 and a blue-black hybrid for a 1/2 flying. When it enters, you get a clue, and it has +2/+0 as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. Blue-black is a tempo deck looking to disrupt the opponent long enough to win with evasive creatures. June Bounty Hunter and Foggy Swamp Hunters are good attackers if you could draw an extra card. Wolfbat is decent, especially if you can mill it first. So look for ways to make clue tokens, such as Azula on the Hunt, Forecasting Fortune Teller, and Lost Days to trigger your draw 2 payoffs. If you're making a lot of spirit tokens, Waterbending cards start to become more attractive. This will be a very tricky deck to draft and build, so I don't expect it to have a very high 17 lands win rate, but it's possible that it is very powerful. Next is Blue-Red Lesson Aggro. The mechanic here is Lessons. Lesson is a subtype of instant or sorcery that some cards reference. Note that the Learn ability from Strixhaven, if you played that set, is not present in this set. Lessons were really, really good back in Strixhaven. Now they're essentially equivalent to regular spells, but they have this extra type that some cards care about. Signpost uncommon is Dragonfly Swarm, 1 blue-red for a star 3 flying with Ward 1. Its power is equal to the number of non-creature, non-land cards in your graveyard. And when it dies, if there's a lesson in your graveyard, you draw a card. Hybrid cards, I'm going to pronounce this wrong probably, Professor Zay Anthropologist is 2 blue-red hybrid mana, so 2 mana total for a 0/3 legendary ally. You can tap to discard a card. You can tap and discard a card to draw a card. And you can pay 1, tap, and sacrifice the Professor to return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. You can activate that only on your own turn. And finally, Abandon Attachments is 1 and a blue-red hybrid for an instant lesson. You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. So blue-red obviously wants to cast a lot of non-creatures, even better if they're lessons. Accumulate, Wisdom, Combustion Technique, and Serpent of the Past are nice payoffs in this regard. A density of lesson cards is a must. The best cheap ones include Firebending Lesson, Boomerang Basics, and Iroh's Demonstration. There are plenty of other lessons you can put in your deck as well. Fire Nation Cadets and First Time Flyer should be late picks that overperform in this deck specifically. Little trick here, if you have a waterbending outlet like Flexible Waterbender that allows you to waterbend every turn, Master Paku can become a win condition by itself. This is a 2 mana 1/3 that when it becomes tapped, target player mills X, where X is the number of lesson cards in your graveyard. So if you can mill yourself a couple of times or just put a bunch of lessons in your own graveyard, you could start milling them for like 6 a turn, and that might be good enough to win. This could also work well in blue-black. So keep that one in mind. Next is Blue-Green Lesson Ramp. It's got a sub-mechanic of shrines. I don't believe any of the shrines are playable if you're trying to win, so I'm going to ignore them in this video, and I would suggest you do that as well. Signpost Uncommon is Hermetic Herbalist, green-blue for a 2/3 ally, taps to make a mana of any color, or taps to make 2 mana in any combination of colors, but you could spend it only to cast a lesson spell. So nice little 2-drop, ramps you, fixes you, love to see it. Guru Pathik is 2 and 2 green-blue hybrids, so 4 mana total for a 2/4 legendary ally. When it enters, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a lesson, saga, or shrine card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So really, you're only going to be finding lessons with this, as far as I can tell. Whenever you cast a lesson, saga, or shrine, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So if you've got 5 or 6 lessons in your deck, this will probably hit one most of the time, and that's good. Platypus Bear is 1 and a green-blue hybrid for a 2/3 with Defender. When it enters, you mill 2 cards, and if there's a lesson in your graveyard, it can attack as though it doesn't have Defender. So not a ton to talk about here. The big payoff is Boomy, King of 3 Trials. This is 6 mana for a 4/4. When it enters, you choose up to X, where X is the number of lesson cards in your yard. You put 3/1 counters on Boomy, you scry 3, and or Earthbend 3. So if you could do all 3 of these, if you got 3 lessons in the graveyard, this is a 6 mana 7/7 that makes a 3/3 and you scry 3. That's pretty hard to lose after you've done that. But really the only straight up payoff in this deck that I can see. There's some self-mill going on in the form of Ostrich, Horse, and Sparring Dummy to help you get to 3 lessons in the graveyard. Blue-green will mostly be a good multicolor base if you're splashing around for rares. That's my guess is how you would end up in this deck. Next is Black-Red Firebending Aggro. Signpost Uncommon is Cruel Administrator. 3 black-red for a 5/4 with Raid. It enters with a +1/+1 counter on it if you've attacked this turn. So could be a 5 mana 6/5 pretty easily. And when it attacks, you create a 2/2 red soldier token with Firebending 1. Not amazing as it has to survive an entire turn cycle, but if you can get it to be a 6/5, it's out of range of a few of the removal spells in the format, but not all of them. A lot of them will still kill this, so just be careful about that. Our hybrid cards, we've got Zhao, Ruthless Admiral. This is 2 and 2 black-red hybrid, 4 mana total for a 3/4 legendary. It's got Firebending 2. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. And finally, Vindictive Warden is 2 and a black-red hybrid for a 2/3 with Menace and Firebending 1. It's also got an activated ability to pay 3 mana to deal 1 damage to each opponent. Fire Sages Azula on the Hunt and Zuko Exiled Prince are the most interesting of the Firebending cards, but they're all at uncommon. So I think this deck is going to be pretty hard to get into. If you do end up with a bunch of Firebending cards, though, you will want Cunning Maneuver, Fire Nation Attacks, and cards that make clues will go up in value as well. So again, just ways to spend this mana during combat at instant speed is really important. Jet's Brainwashing is also here for a little steal and sacrifice fun, if that's something that you're into. Of course, it's uncommon, as well as the sacrifice outlets are mostly uncommon, so it's going to be tough to make this happen consistently. Next is black-green +1/+1 counters. The mechanic here is Earthbend. You can turn your land into a creature with the specified number of +1/+1 counters on it. If the land dies or is exiled, it comes back right away as a tapped land again. So not a huge amount to lose here if you're going to earthbend your creatures. You can also target the same land more than once if you want to go big. Signpost uncommons. Dai Li Agents is 3 black-green for a 3/4. When it enters, you earthbend 1, and then you earthbend 1 again. So you can make 2 of your lands into 1/1s, or 1 of your land into a 2/2, or you could stack those counters on lands you've already earthbended. So a little bit of versatility here. A pretty good stat line. It's kind of like a mini Grave Titan in a certain way. They're 5 mana, 3/4, and 2 1/1s. It's pretty good. Whenever this creature attacks, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them. Kind of a little bit of upside, but going to be hard to get this through, I think, so I don't know how much that's going to matter. Hybrid cards, Long Fang Grand Secretariat is 1 and 2 black-green hybrid, so 3 mana for a 2/3 legendary. Whenever another creature you control or land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And finally, Earth Village Ruffians is 2 and a black-green hybrid for a 3/1, and when it dies, you earthbend 2. Toph, the Blind Bandit, and Earth Kingdom General reward you for putting counters on creatures. So those are a nice payoff to have here. And Rebellious Captives and Hog Monkey are good early drops that provide counters later on. And Badger Mole is a decent curve topper that sort of buffs your +1/+1 counter creatures, and it also gives you a couple of counters in the form of an Earthbend. Buzzard Wasp Colony has great synergy with sacrificing Earthbended lands, as you end up with a big flyer and an extra card to boot. Finally, we've got red-green 4 power. Signpost uncommon is Bitter Work. This is 1 red-green for an enchantment. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, you draw a card. It's got an exhaust ability. Exhaust means you can just only activate it once for as long as this permanent is in play. So you pay 4 mana to Earthbend 4 during your turn. Hybrid cards, Uncle Iroh is 1 and 2 red-green hybrids, 3 mana for a 4/2 legendary. It's got Firebending 1 and says lessen spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And finally, Earth Rumble Wrestlers is 3 and a red-green hybrid for a 3/4 with reach. Gets +1/+0 and has trample as long as you control a land creature, i.e. something that's been earthbended, or if a land entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Classic red-green theme that doesn't tend to work very well. There are no cheap 4-power creatures outside of Tiger Dillo, which can't attack or block for a good portion of the game. You could also stack Earthbend instances onto a land. A couple of Earthbend 2s would get you there, but there aren't that many at cheap mana costs. And you could also just play Ostrich Horse as a 3-mana 4/2 if you don't want to draw a land. None of these are great options in my opinion. The Boulder Ready to Rumble is a pretty impressive payoff, and I think Raucous Audience will be an important piece as this color pair has a glut of 4-drops. So going turn 2 Audience, turn 3 play a 4-drop, turn 4 play another 4-drop is probably what this deck wants to do. I don't really see it, but maybe it's all right. All right, so projected archetype rankings, way too early predictions here, but I think white looks really good in this format. I got white, red, and white, green as the top 2 decks. White, blue. I could see any one of those 3 being at the very top, but I think that's the order I'm going to go with. And then I like blue quite a bit as well in this format, so I think any deck that is touching blue is going to be pretty good. And then sort of rounding out the rear, we got black, green. Red, green is just kind of medium, mid-range decks. White, black is a deck that just doesn't really work, I don't think, but could be okay if you're mostly white. And then red, black is as a deck that I don't think is intrinsically bad. It's just going to be hard to get into, and it doesn't have a lot of sort of natural good fits in the early curve and things like that. So these are my projected rankings. Notice that black is only represented in the bottom half of decks, and that reflects that I don't think that black is all that good in this set. Now let's talk about some quote-unquote monocolored decks. So monocolor in Limited doesn't mean you're straight up only one color. It usually means that, like, you know, you're mostly white cards and you're playing like 3 or 4 blue cards, maybe 5. So you're playing like 13 plains and 4 islands, or 12 and 5 or something like that. You know, that's sort of what a monocolor deck is. This format has the potential for some very interesting drafts where you're almost entirely one color, as each color has a payoff for having mostly one basic land type in your deck, and they're all quite strong. These are Gather the White Lotus, Waterbending Scroll, Cat Gator, Solstice Revelations, and Rockalanche. I don't recommend taking these early, but if I started a draft with something like a Jet Freedom Fighter, a couple of good white cards, then I picked a Soka Lateral Strategist in pack 1, I would be very interested in taking Gather the White Lotus quite aggressively after that and leaning heavily into white with 12 or more plains in my mana base. I think that's going to be a really cool sort of byproduct of the way they've designed this set, and it's going to make drafting really interesting. Let's get into some draft strategy here. We've got the usual draft strategy. Picks 1 to 3, we're just going to take the best cards. Monocolored cards will leave us more open going forward. Picks 4 through 8, we're going to continue to take the best card. We may have cards in multiple colors, and that's okay. We're going to start to form a picture of what colors are being passed to us. This is known as reading signals. For example, if we see a few solid white cards pick 4 through 8, there's a good chance the players to our right are not drafting white. This is known as white being open. This means we can reasonably expect to see good white cards in pack 3 as well, as those same players will be passing to us again. We also may see a late signpost uncommon indicating its color pair might be available. So we're trying to stay close to one color if possible. A few off-color cards are okay, and we're prioritizing cheaper cards where we can. The better our early picks are, the more we want to stick to that color. The worse our early picks are, the more we're willing to take chances on other colors and sort of be in 3 or 4 colors through pack 1. Pay special attention to picks 9 through 14. This is known as the wheel. These are the cards that no one at the table wanted the first go-around. If we're seeing several playable cards of one color, it is possible that no one else at the table is drafting that color, and we should strongly consider moving in. By the end of pack 1, we've identified our main color, hopefully. This is the color we've got the most quality cards of, or is the most open, and hopefully both. We'll stay as close to one color as possible, and that will leave us with more options going forward. In packs 2 and 3, we'll continue to take powerful cards of our main color where possible. We'll let the good cards we open or get past determine our secondary color and final archetype. Pay special attention to pack direction. The packs are moving in the opposite direction during pack 2, so the signals can be completely different from pack 1. It is normal to not see as many cards of our main color and archetype in pack 2, so don't panic. Pack 3 is passed to the left once again, and we will be rewarded for staying the course. All right, let's look at where does it belong. I want you to really think about this when you're drafting, as certain cards are very flexible in the decks they fit into, and certain cards are very narrow. So think about what type of deck the cards you're drafting fit in, and try to sort of narrow in on that deck as you're going through the draft. So looking at some red commons here, Lightning Strike, 1 in a red, instant deal 3. This can fit into any deck. It's not the most powerful card in the set or anything, but any deck is going to play this. Any deck could play like 2, 3, 4 of these, really, if it wanted to. So this is a fine card to take early on, as any red deck is going to want this. Cunning Maneuver is 1 in a red for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn, and you make a clue token. This is really going to shine in decks that are trying to attack with smaller creatures. So red-white, of course. Red-black, of course. Red-blue likes this because it's an instant, and red-blue wants non-creature spells. Red-green, however, its creatures are going to be bigger. It probably doesn't really need a combat trick like this. It doesn't have Firebending, so it's not going to be making use of the clue token. It doesn't care about spells. So this fits into 3 out of the 4 possible red combinations. Treetop Freedom Fighters is 2 in red for a 2/1 with haste. It's an ally, and it makes a 1/1 ally when it enters. Obviously really good in white-red that's trying to go wide, red-black that's trying to attack. But blue-red doesn't really care about the creatures, it wants spells. This is a little bit below rate. And red-green is trying to play bigger stuff, so it doesn't want this either. And finally, Fire Nation Cadets is a single red for a 1/2. It's got Firebending 2 as long as there's a lesson card in your graveyard, and you can pay 2 to give it +1/+0. So in blue-red, most of the time, this is going to be effectively a 1-mana 2/2 or better with a little threat of activation because you're going to have a lesson in your graveyard a good amount of the time. So this attacks, makes 2 mana, and you could threaten to make it a 2/2 or even bigger if you've got extra mana. But none of the other decks that are red are going to be very good at getting lessons into the graveyard. So this is just going to be a vanilla 1/2 creature most of the time, which is quite bad. So this really only fits into one deck. So really think about this as you're drafting. And make sure that the cards you're drafting all are cohesive in the strategy that they want to go into. Finally, some deck building tips. We're going to play 2 colors. We're going to avoid splashing a 3rd color unless our deck is specifically designed to do so, i.e. you have dual lands that are touching that color. Play 17 lands. A deck with no cards that cost more than 4 mana can play 16, but most of the time you want 17. Play a low curve. Most limited decks want 6 or more 2-mana value creatures, around 4 3-mana value creatures, some 4-mana value creatures, and very few cards that cost 5 or more. Finally, we'll have a quick look for your pre-release this weekend. Cards, the types of cards that are better in sealed. So dual lands are huge in sealed. Most of the time you're playing 3 colors, maybe 4 sometimes. If you've got a handful of these dual lands and they match up well with your rares, you're really going to want to do everything you can to play as many of your rares as possible, and the dual lands are the best way to do that. So really look out for your dual lands when you're opening your sealed pool. Cards like Giant Koi, big kind of clunky creatures that maybe are a bit too slow for the draft environment, but in sealed are quite nice. They give you the duality of being able to island cycle. You can go find a land early if you need it. And then when this does come down on turn 6, it's an unblockable 5-power creature. This is going to get the game over with. So cards like this are something that you might not consider in draft, although I think this one's actually pretty good, but you usually wouldn't consider these as highly in draft, but in sealed, you're looking to put, a couple of these in your deck, especially if you didn't get good rares. And then finally, some clunkier kind of removal spells. I say that this card just might be like the best white common somehow. I feel like I might be wrong on this one, but I think it's a bit clunky. This is Sandbender Storm. This is 3 and a white for an instant, destroy power, creature with power 4 or greater, or Earthbend 3. So just ways to deal with giant things. You're going to see a lot more rares. You're going to see a lot more big creatures in sealed. So having removal that can kill big things is quite nice. And of course, you've got the buyout here of instant speed, 4-mana, 3/3 if you have an extra untapped land, which can be pretty nice as well. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe as usual to support the channel. Let me know how your drafts are going, what you're excited about, what you're not excited about. Give me some feedback on the video if you've got any ideas, anything you want to see in the future. You can also email me, howtodraftmtg@gmail.com. If you want to inquire about private coaching or just say hello, you can reach me there. Thank you so much, everybody. Good luck in your drafts. Bye for now.